Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Okay, now in our Edith Holden journey, we've finished the first two journals. They were made out of the bag, and now I want to start on this one. Now I'm filming in the evening because I want to do some work on the spine, and I want it to dry overnight so that when I get up in the morning I can film another video and this will be ready for me. So let's begin. Now, just reflecting back on this particular journal, this is the cover from the book itself. There was a dust cover as well with this. Now, the dust cover I'm using to protect the pages that are remaining from my donor book, so it will still have a bit of a use. It could be made into something as well. I've had a couple lovely ladies suggest that sort of be made into something, but I think I'm going to keep it because it sort of wraps the pages nicely and keeps them nice and safe. So that's sort of going to be its job. Now, I've covered this in fabric. I've glued a soft spine on this, and I just want to do a couple more little embellishing things to this spine. So the first being on the back here, or on the outside, I want to add a piece of lace. This was already cut and didn't need any additional trimming. So I want to glue this on, and like I said, if I can get the glues to all dry overnight, I'll be pleased, because then I can sort of pick it up in the morning and start playing with it and maybe stitch some signatures in. Well, yeah, it'll be stitching the signatures in. Now, when I created the journals 1 and 2, the bag journals, as I sort of prepped pages, whether they be, actually, I want to put some glue here. I also want another lace. I'm just thinking, hold the phone. I'm just looking here for another lace, just to add a little bit of interest. What would that look like with that? Yeah, let's do it. Why not, I say. So I'm just going to grab my scissors. Nothing like the best laid plans. That's the beauty of junk journaling. You just never know where we're going to go with it all. I went to a garage sale. The lady was making lingerie, and she had decided to close the business down. So I managed to pick up some bulk lace, but it is stretchy lace. So I've got to be a little bit careful where I use it, because it's sort of designed for underwear, but it does come in handy. It wasn't what I'd call a bargain, which was okay, because, you know, the lady was sort of finishing up her business, and I understand that she wanted to get what she could for her remaining product, so that was okay. But it was very interesting to see all the different elements that she had on those trestle tables. And I went really early in the morning. I thought, oh, well, I'm up anyway, I'm just going to go. I don't usually do garage sales. They're sort of a bit hit and miss here in Queensland, Australia. I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, but definitely a little bit hit and miss. So I was a bit, you know, I'll go early just in case I might miss out on something. And oh gosh, there were some people everywhere. So there's obviously a real following to all of that. Now I'm just adding more glue, more layers of glue. Might just lift that up and put a little bit on those stress points. Might need some. That's good. I know it looks terrible because of the blue, but the blue disappears. What the blue does is shows me where I have not been, which is just as important. That is just clogging up. Where's that pin gone? And it shouldn't be. Might be getting low. Oh, there we go. It was clogging up. So now let's just, because the spine is a fabric spine, the more layers of fabric that are added, the better it will be. You can just use calico, like, you know, it will do the trick, but the more you layer in fabrics and sandwich them, the better it'll be. So to quickly grab this particular lace and add it to the recipe is not a bad thing, I think. Just helps with a bit of strength. Like I thought, I really need this to dry so that I can play tomorrow with it. Okay, so now I'm going to just add more glue. Like, you could use PVA glue as well. My PVA glue is nearly finished. It's nearly all gone. I just don't think it's a really good quality one, not like the last one. Look, it's okay. But when it comes to spines, you really want to know that everything is nice and secure. What is going on with this glue? There's a bigger pin, that's what we need. We need to really get down there. Okay. It's tricky when you're gluing lace down because you don't have a lot of... So I put this straight there, or do I do the decorative? I think I'll do the decorative. You don't have a lot of points you can grab when you're doing lace. Oops. I may need to get the PVA out yet. We'll see how we go. My fingers have got glue on them. I just need it all to lay in there. There's my ruler. Apply a little pressure in there so everything grabs. Okay, that's good. So I'll just hold for a moment with that on there, and the art glitter glue will grab. The blue stick will slowly grab, but like I said, if I can leave this overnight, it'll be really good. So I'll just sit for a moment. Okay, that's good. Get it down into that groove. I just apply a little bit more glue in there while I can. And push it into that groove. That's it. Okay, so now, yeah, that's going to be fine. All right, so let's start working on some of these other layers. So at least now this can sit, because I would hate to be coming out in the morning and really I should be cooking dinner basically, but I was sitting there thinking about dinner and I thought, oh, if I don't get this spine treatment finished to the degree I need it to move on, I'm going to be down to, you know, a bit of a problem because nothing has dried. That's good. This will be nice and strong because there's layers here, plus the calico underneath was also machine stitched together, so it is not going anywhere. I think I might pull my PVA glue out too. I'll give this a moment to dry, well, an hour or so, and see how it feels, and if it just isn't as good as I'd like it to be, I'll come through with the PVA glue. Let's see how we go now. Let's get a bit more of this on. It's tricky because everything's wet, so everything's jiggling around. I think I need to refill my bottle. That's good. Yeah, I can feel it gripping. Okay, yeah, as I was saying, I think I've lost a train of thought there. I've been prepping my pages for the journals sort of on, well, not really to a degree that you need to, but as I've done the bag journal, additional pages from whatever the materials were just popped on the cover, which was sitting beside me. So it was good to sort of just pick it up and start on it, and a little bit of that work had already been done by doing those two bag journals. So that was a bit of a nice surprise. So, and some of them I sort of knew exactly how they'd be presented, so I was able to go straight to the sewing machine and just do a bit of background stitching just to sort of make them look decorated. So I've sort of, I guess, shot forward a little bit with this journal due to the fact that we've already done two. Does that make sense? Which is always nice, isn't it? Because we can get straight into the fun stuff. Okay, that feels nice and moist, and if I get that up, I'll be able to roll that around. Oh, goodness me. Because the lace is so thick, it's just not gripping as fast as I want. So I am going to grab that PVA glue, because this is a crocheted lace. Just needs a little more encouragement. Where's my PVA? Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Let's get this PVA glue going. Like, it's gripping, but because, like I said, it's quite thick, and the fabric of the lace underneath, straight away it was fine, gripped, not a problem. But the next lace is really struggling. Like, it would grip, but I'm impatient. So I'm just gonna pop a bit of PVA glue in there and grab my silicone brush. I'll just use this. There it is. And it will really do the job for us. There we go. You just want to know that your spine is strong. So it's definitely worth sort of taking a moment and reassessing it and thinking, well, is that holding as good as you want it? Especially if you're giving a journal to a child. They can be quite heavy-handed. So you really want to know that, you know, everything is adhering nicely. There's plenty of glue in there for that crocheted lace to grip onto. Okay, that's better. I'm happier now. And by default, it's just going to soak through to the bottom anyway, because the lingerie lace, the stretchy one underneath, is pretty lightweight. So either way, it's looking really good. Okay. While I fiddle with this, I thought I might mention that a couple questions come through about how do I get the print on both sides of my paper. So now, admittedly, everyone's printer is different. So that's my first get out of jail. But all I do is I look for two files or two pieces of artwork that are similar size when they are printed. And that's me not having to adjust anything, because of course you can adjust your printing area to be bigger, smaller, reduce it, enlarge it. You know, there's all sorts of tricky things you can do. But if you've got just a basic understanding of your printer and your computer, see, that's glued pretty good, but I'm actually going to break it, pull it up, and I'm going to add a little bit of PVA in there because I'll just be happier knowing I have. Yeah, so if you've got a basic understanding of your computer and what it can do for you, and you've got artwork, say one piece is from Rachel and it's the decorative page, and the other is another file like my porch prints general lines. They're the two that I tend to group. The lines in particular can pretty much go on anything. So I know how they look when they're printed. So all you've got to do then is understand how your printer feeds the paper in. Okay, so what I mean by is you print off your page from Rachel, for example. Then you sit it back into the tray, the paper tray, where you've put your paper, and you hit print again. But before you do, have a think about how did that paper travel through your machine? Is your paper going up into the machine, and say it's laying in the tray and it's going up into the machine and the ink is on the bottom printing on that piece of paper? So when it comes out the top of the machine, you've got your side printed. What you need to work out is, how do I say this? Where is your ink going to sit when you put the paper into the machine? Okay, so for example, you get a blank piece of paper and you sit it in the tray and you put an X on it, and then you hit print. Let it go through and work out where the ink landed. Where is the X? Is it under the artwork from Rachel's page, or is it printed Rachel and the X is on the bottom? That will tell you how that paper was sitting for the result of the printing. So then, let's say we're talking about my printer now. I know that when I'm in front of my printer, I'm looking at the tray, it's coming out, and the road or the house front is to my right. So when I put a piece of paper in, it comes through, it's printed. I can pick up those pieces of papers, and where the X is or the print, if I lay that straight back into the tray as I'm looking at it, so the feet, say there was a human on that page and the feet are pointing to the road, I know that if I pop that piece of paper in there and hit print again, it will go through the machine and come out the top, and the lines will be on the opposite side. Does that make sense? So you need to work out how your printer rolls the paper through the actual machine. I hope that makes sense. And the best way to do it is, before you print something, is put a little X on the page and go, all right, I'm looking at my tray, I've marked an X, I'm hitting print. Is that X going to be covered in ink, or is the X going to be blank? And what I found was my X was not covered. and the print was on the other side. So that told me that when I'm putting paper back in, it won't be printed over. So, for example, I'm sure this doesn't make sense. Let's get a piece of paper. I'm a very visual person, so look, I've got a nice piece of paper here. So, and that'll give me a moment just to leave that be and stop fiddling with it. So let's say this is my blank piece of paper. Just ignore that there. And I don't know where Rachel's page would print. So I'm going to put an X on here. Pens won't work. Chuck it in the bin. So let's put an X on there. So it's still a white piece of paper. And it's now in my printer tray, like that. So I'm then going to go to my laptop and I'm going to print one page. And I know now that this paper somehow magically goes through the machine, flips around a little bit, and Rachel's image will be this side. So that means my X never got covered. So that tells me that if I get Rachel's image and flip it now over, so I'm now looking at Rachel's image, and I know that the text came out and the feet of anyone or a butterfly needs to face to the road or the right hand side, I can then put that pretty piece of paper straight back in. So let's say it's now printed. So there's the pretty piece of paper, it's printed. I hit print and away it goes through the machine, and when it comes out, the X technically now will have lines on it. So does that make sense? That is the best way to work out how your printer is going to perform for you. Hope that makes sense. I'm sure it doesn't. It's trial and error. But yeah, you just need to work out what surface gets the ink when you're looking at it in your paper tray. There you go. We'll leave it at that, because if I say any more, you'll get even more confused. All right, so I just need to clean my fingers here. I have got glue all over them. Now the plan is to let this dry, and then I'm going to use one of these Tim Holtz little ring fasteners, because what I want to do is have this little ring fastener. Let me one task at a time. Clean my fingers before I get PVA glue over everything. Gosh, it's hard to stay focused. I think it's because the end of the day. I've had so much going on today, and I've sort of been doing 20 things at once. And now it's the end of the day and I should be unwinding, and my brain is to the point where I probably need to. But I'm back in the craft room. I don't usually do a lot of craft at night because of this reason. My mind is just tired from the day. So I need to just let that be. Okay. Now, what I want to do when this dries is I'm going to put a little hole in here, and this little brad, which will close like so to go through that hole. And then once I'm through, it can open up and it will then allow me to have a loop on the back that I can put some bits and pieces through. So that's the plan, and that's the fastener that I'm using. Okay, so that's going to happen on the next video once all this dries. I've then found myself a piece of this stripe, and I'm going to put that, I'm going to tear a piece and put that on the inside, because then that will hide that little brad. So that's the next step in the preparation of this journal. But now I'm just going to move it to the floor so it will dry, and don't touch it. And then next video we'll do that once we know that that spine is nice and secure. So I just want to then go through my signatures. Now, as I said, these were sitting to the side of me on the carpet. And as I did the bag journals, elements sort of headed in that direction. So I'd already cut down all of my pretty scrapbook paper, and it was lemon tree. And I've got some bits and pieces left from that particular cut down. Now, due to the quantity of them I had, I could get 2 at full size, and then the other one in here was a little bit smaller because it was like scraps that I was using sort of to pull this all together, which wasn't a problem because I'm going to use an Edith Holden page to create the third signature, which will sit in between these two, if that makes sense. So what I did do is I hopped on my sewing machine, and because the other 2 journals are sort of top of mind, I sort of knew how this would sort of flow stitching wise. So I've just gone through and stitched a few of these pages, not all, just a few of them, and it's sort of, I think will be sort of, I think it'll make sense when we start putting the journal together. I don't think I've jiggered up anything by doing this. I think it'll sort of be similar. I think it's because it's all top of mind at the moment. I had a pile of Edith Holden pages that were also there, and I've just gone through them and made decisions like, what's it look like? Do I trim it? Do I leave it? Do I fold it? So that one there, gorgeous little pop of yellow, not much else happening here, so I've decided to fold that one. I've got a little bit of Shakespeare, and in this particular piece there's a turned up pocket like the previous journals. A little bit of coffee dyed, it's not coffee dyed, it's Parisian dyed, so dyed paper. The old music, there's the eco page, similar theme to the other journals, a little bit more dyed paper. Here's an envelope poking through there that'll have something done, and for sure I will stitch around it like I did the previous journals. Another piece of Shakespeare paper. This was a scrap of scrapbook paper. Now this piece was a bit interesting because it was a panel, and here was the artwork for the what do you call it, the pack of paper that I've used. I'm just looking in my bin to see if I can find the other side. So it was a good way of using something that had lemon tree printed all over it. I can't even see, I know where it is. It's here. I put it in my scraps because it had lemon tree printed there. That was there. So I sliced it off. That I can do something collage over it because the other side is still nice paper. So I decided to actually slice it off and have this little flip here, which will force me to make something to sit on there. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Then I've got some of those papers that I've printed double-sided, which we've just spoken about. This was a page that was a bit of a interesting one, and I decided that I'd do a sideways because I like that image. That there can have something happen on it, or I don't know, it was sort of the bit that didn't quite look right, but it's not too bad. And that was just so pretty to put into the journal in the center. So that's how the pages have come together for this signature. So I do have a little bit more sewing machine work to do, especially now that this has happened. Fudge is on the table and he could possibly walk through at any minute, so I hope he doesn't. So that's the first signature. The second signature is what I'd call my odd bod cluster. A few little challenging things in amongst it, so it should make the journal feel quite different as you go through. Try not to get into the habit of making each signature identical. Try and mix it up a little bit. So hence why it was a no-brainer to put this Edith page there. I've got that odd cut piece of scrapbook paper, some dyed paper, some dictionary. There's another Edith, and in that scenario I just did 2 folds on it because there was just too much artwork that I just didn't want to cut. This to me was a little dull, so I'm thinking that will be glued down and this will just be a tuck, and that sort of left a pretty page in its own. Then we've got some printed. Now I am putting in this journal my 2 precious pieces of stained paper where I had a play with a doily, a plastic doily. I spoke about it in a previous video, and they're kicking around in my box, and I'm thinking use it or lose it. So they're in. Now this I pre-made. This, if you remember, was a printed page that had Edith Holden on the inside that I'd purchased a digital print, and I believe the lady was in breach of copyright because the prints have gone. And I just have a feeling she may have just photocopied it. She's enlarged it, but to me it looks like the original. So I just don't want it, you know, in full view. So I've stitched the pieces together. I folded over the edge to reinforce the edge. I then stitched down, I glued and stitched down that folded edge, both sides. Then I laid it on top of each other and run the top and the bottom through the side seam. So I've got now in the center of this signature a potential storage space for bits and pieces. So pretty pleased with that. Now that's pretty much that signature explained. Once again, I can hop on my sewing machine and do a little bit more decorative stitching. The next signature, I've pinned in an envelope here. I want to do a bit of a decorated envelope here. I do plan to do a few more of these through this journal because I've got a nice thick spine. I can really play a little bit more and have more flip outs and things like that. So I just popped that there because it's quite a plain background and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to do something. Now this April page was gorgeous in itself, so I did a little fold, but the other side was boring. Now the other side was actually, and I've just put it to one side here as potential ephemera playing. No, I didn't. I put it here with my scrap Edith Holden. Here it is. These are all my bits that are left over from the pages that I took out. So this is the other side of that page there. So it just didn't do much for me. So I decided to make it a little hinge here to have something on. This piece I've prepared with a stitch along the top. That's going to be a pocket somewhere. And this piece, the top of it, I'm going to fold that up, do something along there, and it'll just be another little double pocket. So that's just put aside with all of the leftovers from the breaking down of my book. So I've just got a bull clip on them and they're just over to the side waiting for another day. So where are we? So there's the second piece of my pretty paper, some music paper, some dyed paper. The May fit beautifully. All I did was just take 1/8 of an inch off that side and it just brought it in beautifully. Little bit of William Shakespeare, dyed paper, my butterfly page, another page that fit beautifully. And I just, you know, slithered a little bit off, which is great. Just dyed paper, Shakespeare, and another one with just a slither. So the only comment I'll make as I'm going through this is I've got 3 signatures. Now, that's got folded Edith. That's got fold in half Edith. That's got Edith plus an edge page folded in. Just bear with me. I'm just double checking my Edith is evenly spread. I think this one has 3 Ediths. One in the center, one halfway through, and then one there, which is okay. I'm okay with that. The only thing I did do while I was stitching the top of my scrapbook paper is I put in place the belly band like I did in the other journals. Just a piece of that cluster, stitched it in top and bottom so it's nice and secure. So I think it worked out I had 13 pages in this, 11 pages in this, and 13 pages in that. I think it's how it sort of worked out, which I'm okay with because this center one has this swinging double pocket. So that allows me a little bit extra room to add some goodies in there. And I've got a bit of an idea for some things for those pockets, but I'm still sort of thinking that through. Okay, so that is my signatures to a degree where I'm happy enough with the clusters. I'm happy with their sizing. They fit well in the cover. And now they just need a little bit more sewing machine work, and then they can be stitched into that spine when the fabric dries. So that's where I'm at with the signatures. Now, the next thing I wanted to go through is I've grabbed myself a piece of cardboard because I'm going to use this to work out where my holes need to go, not only for the spine and punching, you know, the holes in, but also when it comes to stitching the signatures in. So I've got my cardboard ready for that. And I just wanted to go through my little pile here because I've finished those two journals. The place was in a bit of a mess. So I've tidied up, and I just wanted to show you quickly how I organise my things. Whoops, because we know where we're heading with it, and we know the elements we're using, but I just had to sort of bring it all together. So bull clips, I've got my Edith scraps, I've got the scrapbook paper scraps, I've got some coffee dyed paper, and it's not coffee dyed paper, it's Parisian dyed paper. I've got some Shakespeare, some music, and then I'll just move that out of the way. I've got the bits that were left from the first two journals that I tore into. And then I went through the printed pieces and I, using my ruler, tore them all down. So already I have a nice ripped edge ready to go. So that's just something I sort of do in the preparation of getting ready to build my journal. I sort my papers into categories. And that way I know, you know, what I've got at a glance. I can then go and print something or get something if I feel like I don't have enough of it. Now, in addition, these are some elements that I'm pretty confident we're going to decorate and add to the journal. So here I have some of the over the page hanging pieces that I want to do some more work with. And also, there's 3 of them there. I've also got 2 cards. Now these are just greeting cards. And I make a lot of envelope journals, which leaves me these greeting cards. So I've got to start using them. It's a nice card. It's nice and strong. It's a good neutral colour. So, you know, it's just something I really want to start using. So I've got this idea, which will appear in a future video, hence the bull clips on it to keep it organised, is I want to make an ephemera holder out of that piece of cardboard, decorated with some little pockets to put labels in and words, and so it's only small things. Maybe the odd butterfly and bird would fit. Single piece of card, but decorated, and I'm thinking along the lines of fabric on the cover of it so that it feels, you know, textual. And one of those will go into my stash, and one of them will go into that pocket that's in the center signature that can be opened. So that's the plan for one of those pockets. The second pocket is going to be stuffed full of goodies that they can go through and use through their journal. Like I did with the bag journals, I had those envelopes in them where we just pop some bits and pieces in there for the owner of the journal to play with. So what else did I want to go through? I think that's about it. Now I just have to cool my heels. I'm ready to craft tomorrow morning when I wake up all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and have all my faculties together. I've got my spine ready to go to mark out. I get this little fastener in position, the fabric covering it on the inside. That won't take long to dry. And then I will be able to, you know, stitch in my signatures. Okay, so that's where I'm at. I will finish the video here. I need to go and make some dinner. I do apologise for the lighting is just not as good at night because you can see all these shadows. In the morning, I have natural light coming in from a window to the side of me, so it sort of makes filming a lot easier. Look at that reflection there, terrible. Okay, I'll say goodnight and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.